All rise. The Honorable Court with Judge Chung is now in session.
Please be seated. This is the case of George Moran versus Al Capone. As I understand the pleading, the charge against Al Capone is attempted by George Moran as homicide. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're now being asked to decide whether or not Al Capone did attempt a murder on George Moran and 7 of his men. Now, are there any opening statements?
Your Honor, in this case, we will show that on February 14, 1929, the defendant, Mr. Capone, did indeed attempt to bump off George Moran. We will show that he ordered several hits to George Moran's men, leaving behind 70 cartridge casings, and the weapons were identified as .45 caliber Thompson submachine gun that have killed 7 men in total. Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the attorney for Al Capone have any opening statements?
Your Honor, Mr. Moran's charge is extremely jake. You see, Mr. Moran's intention was to leave Mr. Capone left holding the bag. Mr. Al Capone was never near the joint in which this alleged homicide were taking place. He was busy being a wonderful man, taking care of his old, sick, dying mother. And this can demonstrate that he had no part in the homicide attempt. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, prosecutor, call your first witness.
I call Mr. Moran as my first witness.
And Bible, left hand up. You swear to tell the whole truth, no but truth, and so help you God.
I do. I guess I have nothing else to lose.
Alright, please take your seat.
State your full name, please.
Every cutie pie, flapper, and hard-boiled man calls me Bugs. Seeing how we are in the presence of this formal interior, you may know me as George Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Prosecutor, you may now question your witness.
What do you do for a living there, son?
I help my community there, raising benefits and such for the children and working housewives around Chicago. With my dearest friends who are here today, Cryboy and Josiah Rosales, we take out their trash and park their jalopies with no jack necessary.
Well then, Mr. Moran, on the date of February 14, 1929, can you tell me where you were allegedly perpetrated? What is it you were really doing?
Well, me and the fellows were out taking a stroll to a new nifty Java joint in town. And sitting there with my friends in our little bull session, a blue-nosed bully comes running in telling me that some of our friends we've known since we were younger got bumped. I then spat out the rest of my giggle water and rushed to them.
Excuse me, Mr. Moran? Did you just say that you spat out the rest of your giggle water?
Well, you know, it's not against the law to drink giggle water. Now, is there?
No, there is no law on drinking it, but there is a law against selling alcoholic beverages. It's prohibition by President Hoover. It's the 18th Amendment.
Objection! This prosecutor is going off subject.
Sustained. Please focus on the main course of action, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. What were you really doing, Mr. Moran?
As I was previously saying, I was waiting for new bootleg cargo to come in during my bull session. As I was on my way to the warehouse, of course, I saw another bull coming in with his new little jalopy. Deciding to stop by the Java joint, this kid, of all people, runs up to me to tell me my own men were bumped off. Right there in the midst of this beautiful morning.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness. Mr. Moran.
Mr. Moran! Mr. Moran! 7 of your men had just been bumped off.
Who would do this to me?
I don't know.
Who else? Al Capone.
Perhaps Al Capone. He's been after us for years.
Defense attorney, would you like to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Mr. Moran, what were you waiting for this alleged cargo?
Well, the Purple Gang called me on the morning of February 7, 1929.
So it was the Purple Gang that called you, not Mr. Capone.
What, do you take me for a sucker? Mr. Capone clearly steers the Purple Gang, does he not?
So now we're here to point fingers at Mr. Capone for running a game which he clearly doesn't run. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Please take the witness back to their seat. We will call on the defense attorney to call the first witness on the behalf.
Your Honor, I would like to call Mr. Al Capone to the stand.
Please put your right hand on the Bible and take your left hand up. Sir, do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear on my mother's grave.
Now, please take your seat.
Mr. Capone, where were you on the day of February 14th, 1929? And what were you doing?
Why, sir, if your mother was sick and miles apart from your own achy breaky heart, wouldn't you spend her last final days by her bedside? Mother was always intact with me as much as possible. How can I stand to leave that copacetic woman without a last cash?
So where was this to be taking place?
My mama's little condo in Florida.
Ah, so you were nowhere near the alleged crime scene.
No, sir. Warren's been trying to frame me as if I was an easy pushover. I would never do such a thing to innocent men on their way to work. Only Bugs has a cold heart to do such a thing.
This is all I have for Mr. Capone. Thank you, Your Honor.
Prosecutor, would you like to cross-examine this witness?
Delightfully, Your Honor. Mr. Capone, do you recognize this weapon?
No, sir, I don't.
This is a .45 caliber Thompson submachine gun. Now, here we have some pictures of some of your hit with. Do you recognize any of them?
No, I don't, so you can take that away.
Alright. Well, you see, we have here the evidence that proves that Al Capone did indeed have some connection to the murder. So I require that this evidence be admitted immediately.